The enemy is inside you. Stop looking at your boss. Stop blaming the traffic. Stop pointing your finger at your partner, at the economy, at your childhood, at the world. You are pointing in the wrong direction. There is a monster living inside your own chest. It wears your face. It uses your voice. And every single time you have felt rage, or grief, or humiliation, it was not the world that hurt you. It was you. Epictetus, a man who began his life in chains, who had his leg broken by a cruel master, who owned nothing and was owned by everyone, looked at the Roman elite, the rich, the powerful, the so-called free men, and he laughed at them. He laughed because they were slaves. They were slaves to something they could not see. They thought the problem was the emperor. They thought the problem was the tax collector. They thought the problem was the cheating wife or the backstabbing friend. Epictetus told them the truth. The same truth I am telling you now. The enemy is not out there. The enemy is in here. Let me tell you about a man named Marcus. Marcus was a good man. At least, that is what his mother told him. He worked hard. He paid his taxes. He loved a woman named Cassia with a fire that he thought would never burn out. For 10 years, he built his life around her. Every decision he made, he ran through the filter of what would Cassia think. His happiness depended on the curve of her smile in the morning. His mood depended on the tone of her voice at dinner. If she was happy, the world was golden. If she was distant, the sky fell down. He had given her the keys to the castle. He had handed her the crown and said, "Here, you rule." And then, one Tuesday afternoon, she left. She stood in the doorway of their home, a small bag in her hand, and she said the words that every human being dreads. "I do not love you anymore." And then the door closed. For the first 3 days, Marcus did not move from his chair. He replayed the scene over and over. The look on her face. The sound of the door. The silence that followed. He told himself a story. The story was that Cassia ruined his life. He told himself that if she had not left, he would not be in this pain. If she had been faithful to her promises, he would be happy. The cause of his suffering was out there, walking around the city with that small bag, living a new life. He was a victim. The world was cruel. Love was a lie. Days turned into weeks. Marcus began to lose things. First, he lost his appetite. Then, he lost his focus at work. His boss, a man named Fabricus who had the warmth of a winter stone, called him into the office. Fabricus did not shout. He did not need to. He simply said, "Marcus, you are a ghost. You are here, but you are useless. If you cannot find yourself by the end of the month, do not bother coming back." Now Marcus had 2 villains in his story. Cassia, the betrayer. And Fabricus, the tyrant. He went home that night and screamed at the walls. "Why is this happening to me? First she destroys me, now he wants to fire me? The universe is against me." He was drowning. And like most drowning people, he was convinced the water was the problem. But the water was not the problem. One night, Marcus could not sleep. He wandered the streets of the city like a lost dog. He found himself in a part of town he never visited, near the docks. The air smelled of salt and fish and rot. He saw a light in a window. An old man, sitting alone, reading by a small oil lamp. Marcus knocked. He did not know why. He was desperate. The old man opened the door. His name was Kephalos. He was a former slave from Greece, now a leather worker. His back was bent, his hands were scarred, and his eyes were terrifyingly calm. Marcus poured out his story. The betrayal. The threat of being fired. The cruelty of the world. He waited for the old man to pity him. Kephalos did not pity him. Kephalos looked at Marcus and said, "You are a fool." Marcus was stunned. He said, "I am suffering. I have lost everything." Kephalos shook his head. He said, "You have lost nothing. You have only lost your opinions." Kephalos leaned forward. He had learned this philosophy in the household of a Roman senator, who had learned it from a slave named Epictetus. He said, "Listen to me, boy. When Cassia walked out that door, what actually happened? A person moved from one place to another. That is an event. That is a fact. The universe did not stop. The sun did not fall from the sky. A body moved through space. But inside you, a war began. You told yourself a story. You said, 'This is a catastrophe. I am unlovable. My future is gone.' Those are not facts. Those are opinions. You have been fighting your own opinions. You have been wrestling with ghosts." Marcus tried to argue. He said, "But the pain is real." Kephalos grabbed Marcus's hand and squeezed it until it hurt. He said, "Is the pain real?" "Yes. The sensation is real. But the meaning of the pain? You gave it that meaning. You chose to let her departure define your worth. You chose to let Fabricus's words determine your future." He let go of Marcus's hand. He said, "Fabricus did not fire you yet. You are suffering today, right now, over a thing that has not even happened. You are borrowing misery from a future that does not exist." Epictetus taught that we suffer not from the events of life, but from our judgments about them. Your judgment was that you needed Cassia to be happy. False. Your judgment was that if you lose your job, you are a failure. False. Until you understand that the dagger is in your own hand, you will bleed forever. That night, sitting in that small, smelly room by the docks, Marcus had a choice. He could cling to his story. He could remain the victim. He could blame Cassia and Fabricus until the day he died, and he would die miserable and small. Or he could cut the rope. He chose to cut the rope. He walked home that night, and for the first time in weeks, he looked at the sky. It was just the sky. It was not mocking him. It was not favoring him. It was just there. The next morning, he went to work. Fabricus called him in again, ready to fire him. Marcus stood there, and he realized that Fabricus's words are just air moving through a throat. They can only hurt him if he agrees with them. He did not agree. He did his work. He did it well. He stopped needing Fabricus's approval. He stopped needing the world to be kind. He started living. Marcus is still alive today. He is walking around somewhere, perhaps in your city. He lost Cassia, but he found himself. He lost his need for the world to behave itself. You are not Marcus. But you are living in the same prison. Every day, you give away your power. You say, "He made me angry." No. You made you angry. You say, "This traffic is driving me crazy." No. You are driving you crazy. Epictetus, the crippled slave, owned nothing, and yet he was freer than the emperor. Because the emperor was afraid of assassination. The emperor was afraid of bad news. The emperor was a puppet, and the strings were pulled by events. You are pulling your own strings. It is time to stop. The enemy is not your boss. The enemy is not your ex. The enemy is not the government, or the economy, or your parents. The enemy is the voice inside your head that tells you that you cannot survive without the world being a certain way. Conquer that voice, and you are truly unstoppable. If you do not conquer it, you will spend your life like Marcus did in that chair, bleeding from wounds that do not exist, fighting ghosts that cannot touch you. The choice is yours. But the time for blaming is over. First, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be. Then, do what you have to do.